All right. What's up, guys? We are back with another Ashen Pages podcast episode. I am your host, the Dice Boss himself, along with the other co-hosts on this show. We are gonna be missing someone. Shorkle is out doing some streaming of a game, so there'll always be that fun there. But until then, we have at least the other hosts, including Starside Kanon. K9, I can't even talk today. In other words, the hound dog from space. What's up, Star?
Oh, sorry. I was watching the latest episode of Critical Role. Definitely not sponsored. It's nice to be here on the podcast once again with the Dice Boss himself. It's good to be here.
Yeah, boy. All right, and then we got, of course, the lovely non-binary assassin themselves. It is Corvo the Sniper. How is yous?
Good. Doing all right. Good to be back again on the podcast and stuff.
Goody. Oh yeah, heck yeah. And then of course we got everyone's favorite goblin, everyone's favorite uncle. It is none other than Tank the Goblin. How are you, Tank?
Good. In between soldiers right now. Doctorate. Recently acquired. So.
Ooh, there we go.
Physically in the OR. ER, I should say.
ER. That's what it is, man. It's the ER, the R of ease. You know.
I'm just saying though, you saying that, one day, somebody is going to be making like fucking Wikipedia shit on us, right?
Mhm.
And then they're gonna think that, and they're gonna put it in.
I mean, it's not like I'm not lying to you. I'm physically in the ER as we speak.
Yeah, I know.
Just.
This is true.
Yeah, that's true. So
My doctor made crayons, but that's science.
So before we get into today's topic on role-playing basics, role-playing 101, we're going to do another bit of a segment of Where Are They?, which on our Twitter we have posted this particular sneak peek coming up. And also as a point as well, some people might know that I run the main deal. Other than that, I try to not really do much personally with it. But we had the Twitter, we got Starside, got the Twitter, and then recently Corvo, the Sniper, and Tank the Goblin have had a Twitter that they've made. So if you follow the Ashen Pages podcast Twitter, then you'll be able to probably find them as well, because I try to share any kind of stuff that they post out there. But speaking of like at least Corvo, let's go to the segment of Where Are They? And try to figure this out. So right here, if you notice, we have apparently two Corvos, which one saying why, while a bunch of people are eating popcorn, a tub of popcorn that another Corvo is in saying, heck if I know. What, where are you and why?
Random white people house.
Uh-huh.
And all I can say is teleportation combined with a cloning spell. Don't do it.
But
I would also like to add something. Trying to find mini Kono is a pain in the ass.
Yep.
And they laugh at you the entire time. It's not fun.
I'm trying to figure out like which one was the original, the one that's regular size or the tiny.
I guess
No
we'll have
one
to figure
knows.
that out. Only one way to find out.
How? That's what I'm asking. How?
Figure it out.
Jeez. Oh boy.
That's the mystery of it all. Like you have to figure it out.
We Scooby Doo this. We Scooby Doo this joint.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's go into one of the main deals is about role playing, because obviously when you play a role playing game, you gotta roleplay. It's in the title, it's in the name, it's literally on even the book itself. So
I will have to say though, you don't always got to. Some people are a little shy at first,
true.
or just don't feel comfortable in doing it. So I mean, like you can if you want to.
Like there's
It doesn't
ways
matter if
there's ways to roleplay without like trying to be an actor, trying to do all the voices
yeah.
and everything like that. But like I said, that's what we're getting into with this, is that different tips, different ways, because sure, there's those who are going to be shy, but if you are considering it and don't know where to start or anything like that, we're going to offer some tips based on our encounters and our experiences in this. First thing I will point out from my starting sense, and then we will hand the mic over, pass the mic over, toss the mic, throw it to Starside, is I gotta come up with a lot of synonyms. But we gotta. One thing I will say is that you don't necessarily have to do voices. Like, you can even act as yourself, as if even being dramatic. Just the main thing is to try to just at least picture yourself in the situation and how you would react at that point. Like, I could just be playing a character using this actual voice here, and if I'm angry, I'm gonna get angry at this kind of stuff, or if you're kind of scared, you kind of go quiet a bit, I just kind of go like this. That's how I normally would be, like, talking with those situations. But just emotions, and think of, okay, if I was in this situation, how would I react? That's the kind of thing that we need to ultimately have known on that, is that it's about ultimately putting yourself in the shoes of your character in that situation. How would you react? So that would be one of my things. Starside, what about you, my good man?
Repeat that for me one more time. I phased out like half.
Alright then, so what you got is role-playing. What are some tips that you would have for role-playing in a tabletop role-playing game?
Some tips I would have for role-playing in a tabletop game. What I would do beforehand, before starting the session, I would usually look at my character that I would be playing as, and then I would just think to myself, how can I portray this character? If I was in the shoes of this said character, how would I portray them? For me, it was Mari. So Mari was a catfolk, and I tried to give them a voice. I would look at their personality, and then all the pieces would just fall to place. What I would the tip that I would say was just like, how does your character act? How do they respond to others? What is their personality? And then try, in a way, become that character. Put yourself in that character's shoes. And then over time, whether it's a one shot or multiple sessions in a campaign, you feel yourself becoming more of this character, and you feel like more comfortable portraying this character and playing this character. And then sometimes you might even forget, oh wait, am I actually, oh wait, I completely forgot I'm actually playing this character. Sometimes you just lose yourself.
Yeah, and that's the best part, is like having that immersiveness that goes, and I think that's one of the things I try to usually do to assist with that kind of stuff, is to especially if I play music and some of these other things, you sort of have that immersive experience to be you get to feel like you're that character. And once you do that, then everything at that point comes natural, from the voice to actions, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Very nice, very nice. Sniper, what you got? What you got to offer to the table?
Well, in a way, when I RP, I've been role playing since, God, and it wasn't even dealing with D&D or Pathfinder.
Yeah.
But I've been role playing since I was, I'd say, about 14, 15 maybe. No, 16.
That's a long set of years.
Oh yeah, that's years of role play that I've done in my life between friends and stuff, and it taught me how to basically tell a story, in a sense. And when it comes to telling a story, is how you portray your character. The way you portray your character is where, how they would react in certain situations. Say, you're dealing with a problem, that deals with your backstory that's in said thing, and you kind of have to think about like, oh, what would they do if they ran into that situation, and then acting it out, or you know, you don't even have to act it out, like you can just talk normally if you wanted to. And because I know some people feel embarrassed at times when it comes to just you know, putting it out there in general, and like acting a certain way or doing a certain voice and you feel nervous about it. But it's more of the thought process of how would my character do this, or even just how you would interact with said situation, and then playing it out and putting forth emotion if need be, and all this other stuff that goes into role play. And when you start putting in that scene, you can even delve into your own mind of like, you know, you're picturing it in your head, and like, you know, the scene is set and you're like wanting to be action packed, have like this force of 1,000 gods reach into your soul and then pull out, and you're just like, I will face God and I will fight him and I will kill him myself, sort of situation. Or whatever situation it may be. Especially of recent, when me and the dice boss with two of our characters in a certain campaign, where his character being a follower of Zon Kuthon, and putting my character in the situation where she was not comfortable, and then having this moment of like pure sadness and problematic things, where he was wanting her to be in a Kuthite, but she doesn't want that necessarily, and so their bond was broken, and having to put out the uh I'm trying to like act it out in a way like of, I thought we were friends, but it turns out we weren't. Was this all a mistake? You know, putting out those kinds of emotions in a sense.
To which made me cry during the whole deal. I think that's the best part, is like when you then have your role play work out to the point that you can then get those feels out of other people. Like you'll have them crying, and then how they respond at that point as well. Because I feel like with that's what's happened there for your character there for Molly, and then we had Mari when at one point his lover was on the verge of death at one point, and then I could hear the tears, sort of like that sadness coming from you, and at that point it just shows again that immersiveness, and it tends to bring that out of people.
I don't know what you're talking about. You didn't hear nothing from
Come on, man.
It's fine.
Everyone's got emotions, man. Ain't no problem with that, especially your character.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, I think it's very strange, like, just making the character and, like, maybe 2-3 sessions in, you physically won't get, like, attached to it emotionally until you, like, fully developed it. Because, like, when you first make the character, you're like, well, if he dies in this session, oh, well, I can just make a new one.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you play him or them, the more emotional attachment you'll get through them. It'll be easier for you to switch into that character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's much like that. I mean, like, for example, with my particular case, like, I've thought about the Zon Kuthon guy that I'm playing in the campaign. I've thought about having him die, or at least get rid of him so they move on for something else, but it's only been like 2 sessions and some casual RP sessions that have then been done as well, that I'm attached to that dude. He might be evil, he might be a very dark and demented individual, but I feel it's hard to really...
He might be?
Huh?
He is. He might be? Nah, he is. There's no might anywhere in this.
Well, you gotta
There's
also...
good in him, I swear.
Might be.
Yeah, just you need a backhoe and just like dig down
Like
2,000 miles below the surface.
like
You might find like a hint or something.
like I'm just saying, like, you know what he looks like, Molly, and you as well. Um, but, Tank, you know what he looks like as well.
Yeah, evil.
I like how you called me by my character's name. I think that's hilarious.
Well, I mean,
After a while, it's just a habit of calling people by their character.
I'm starting to feel like
That
that,
is
and that's
true.
what
That is true.
and that's also why I tell you to stop going by. We have times you play two characters in some of the campaigns. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
that's how I
It's-
really start to get dyslexic on the whole
Look,
deal.
it's one of those situations where you've role played for so like long in your life that you're
Yeah.
like, I can do two things at once. I can be two different characters. And it's
Yeah.
so easy for me to do because when you've been in it for so long, it is
Mhm.
like because me and my friends who are my roleplay mutuals that I have, how we do things is that we have two separate role plays. Our role plays are not connected in any sort of way or fashion. And like I have been accustomed to playing two different things or even more than that over the years that my brain is trained on like, oh, this character I definitely want to do, but I want to do another character. What about this character? And so when you have dumb brain like me, it's just there it is. It's like on the table. You know me by now. Like you know that I will not falter on making something perfect because that's how my brain is trained.
Yeah. So like that's, but I can understand that as well. But I also sent Starside the image of what Homeboy looks like now. And his behavior's also gone into a different side as well.
Handsome fella.
I mean, see,
Very handsome fella.
see,
He's
there
still
you.
evil to me.
Well, I mean, he's starting to go a different direction. Like he was all about torture and everything like that. Now he's focusing on how he looks.
I will give him the benefit of the doubt, but still keep an eye on him.
I'm just saying. But that being said, let's try to throw in some other topics, or not topics, but like other alternative ways we can do it. Like, there's the one thing that I would suggest, is especially if we want to role play something, and if you think about it. Wait, what?
I'm going to say there's also the third person method of just making your character out to be like in the third person's third perspective. Where like, oh, Tank will do this, and Tank will say this, or Tank sounds like this.
Right. So
And
like
just
the
do it that way.
the
Then I feel like
descriptions and stuff.
comfortable doing voices.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's also a good point there, especially if
It's a
someone's
very
trying to get used
solid way of doing it.
Oh yeah, especially if
Yeah.
you're trying to get used to it and you're not too comfortable doing voices or even trying to sound like in your first person perspective. You can do the third person and say, "I'll do this," and he sounds like this because That's even a GM tip as well. It's like people are worried about how you do these voices and have a lot of these voices where instead you can just have like descriptions of the man approaches you with a very smoky and husky voice. And he sounds, and you can even like describe all that kind of stuff. So you like got all these kinds of things that can help out, not just for players, but the GMs as well in all this for the role playing experience. One of the
Actually, it was just how you were talking about like the describing of how the voice is. Back when I used to be in, the site's still up, by the way. It's still a thing. It's called Annie Roleplay.
Yes.
And like they have an alternate one as well. But I don't remember the name of it. I didn't really care for it. I was on the Annie Roleplay a lot. But when people would make like original characters and stuff, they would like state like what they kin their characters to basically, and like what they would sound like and whatnot. And it'd be like, oh, they sound like Tom Hiddleston, or like they sound like a combination of Chris Rock and I don't know, like a bunch of other stuff like that. So like, if you can't really think of ways of how to describe the voice, sometimes you can just be like, oh, they sound like this particular actor, or they sound like this particular character from an anime or something like that. It's just like what popped into my brain, like, oh, if you don't really have like a voice in mind at the moment, just be like, oh, this is what they sound like, and just talk normally.
Yeah, exactly. So, one of the things that I want to offer in this scheme of things is on the manner of how to roleplay. How to do this from a perspective of doing something outside your comfort zone. Because that's what I think might also be a thing, is some people might want to at least then try a character that, because they could probably do voices, but it's only for certain kinds of notions, where maybe you want to play the hero, but you don't know how to play the hero in terms of a voice or in terms of a style that you're going for. So instead, try something that might be outside the comfort zone, like maybe playing a comedic type of character. You know, you could play like a Shorzy from Letterkenny, where you just like are just making some insults against some of the NPCs if they start being rude, or you just want to throw shade, and you have a funny voice that can go along for it. Try that. Or then there's the evil character, which is a kind that I'm having to explore, a lawful evil character following Zon Kuthan. It's definitely outside my comfort zone, especially since it's an evil character with a party that is trying to fight for the good of the world. Or at least that's what we know as players, but he has his motivation, so you gotta get into that, and that's what I think is another thing. Do method acting, or do like the whole deep dive searching into your character, kind of thing, you know, like how Heath Ledger did for the Joker, and how some people try to do for their characters that they play. Put it to the point where, you know, you're right, apart from writing up a biography on them, or like a little backstory, you also kind of be
if that helps, do it. But
I mean,
you don't have to.
You don't have to, but these are just overall these things we're saying you don't have to. These are just tips to help with the situation. And that's where
just in general notions of like what you could do if you wanted to give it a shot. More like a here's what we've done, and like if you would like to use said information, by all means, and if it's helped you, leave a comment.
Leave a comment in that comment section right there. We're gonna send the Starside canine over to the house, or better yet, from a distance, we will have the sniper set up somewhere from a good distance, and just take you down like in that Wanted movie. That's one of the two, so feel free to comment. Jesus, so comment and subscribe. I think that's the most passive aggressive way we have tried to be like that. It's like, hey, comment, or else we're gonna have someone snipe you from a distance.
Exactly.
This is the most weirdest way, but hey, but we handle it. But oh my goodness, I am tired. I don't know why I didn't make tea today. I didn't make tea at all. I feel
G Fuel. We would love to be sponsored.
Yeah,
Just saying.
So you can send us some of those delicious, tasty drinks.
You hear Dice Boss getting tired?
To prevent Dice Boss dehydration and prevent Dice Boss fatigue, you know, send have that G Fuel and you're good. But we are not sponsored by them. We would want to sponsor. I can't even talk right now. So, but yeah, so try something.
It would be nice.
Yeah, so try something outside the comfort zone. Anyone else got anything they want to point out?
You ever drink Bailey's from a shoe?
All right, old Greg.
I'm old Greg.
LeBron James. No.
LeBron James.
Not gonna lie, I feel the same kind of. I feel he's got the same kind of energy because he's just like, I'm all Greg.
We all have a little bit of old Greg inside of us.
We
Not
all.
that way, but you know.
Speak for yourself.
Excuse me, what?
What? Anyways, we're talking about role playing here. What was your advice that you had to offer?
Oh, if you are uncomfortable with a certain topic or situation that is happening in a role play, do not be afraid to speak out about it, because consent is
Yep.
key
Consent
when it
is
comes
key.
to role play. And when
Yep.
you put out the things that you are okay with in a role play, then you will have more fun in the long run.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, in the great worlds of Kono, consent is sexy.
Consent is sexy, baby.
Consent's hot.
Like it's
Consent is so hot.
like absolutely.
And we got demonetized.
Yeah, I think my wallet's about to be empty tonight. Fun.
What happened, man?
Something's happening.
It's
Did-
the consent. He's spending too much on consent.
About to say, is it consent he's spending too much on, or is it a lot of
I guess he's gonna run out of consents.
Is it? Oh
Okay,
god, you're
leave.
bad for that. You need to go to jail for that one. That's a bad.
Oh, completely.
That was a terrible pun. I'm sorry,
Oh my.
but then I'm not.
This is what happens, folks, when you got a bunch of crazy people behind the mics on this one.
Who said I was sane?
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, fair point. Touche.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
was never sane to begin with. And
I-
if you assumed I was, well, it's a bad day for you, I guess.
Yep. So, one of the other things I want to point out that can help out is this mostly comes in when you're trying to role play. Okay, your character speaks a language like Elvish or Dwarven or any other ones that's not just in the basic of the Tolkien world. How do you role play that? Well, there could be, of course, just saying in the language. Just say, well, I say in this. But one of the tips that I have is to ultimately try to learn some of these languages from either a Tolkien thing, for example, for the Elven and the Dwarvish, because it's already laid out. How to try to say some of these things. It helps bring in more of that immersiveness. But at the same time, if you can understand like what's possibly being a good way to connect it, like one of the examples is a Critical Role. He had Caleb in the whole deal, and I believe the language is Zemnian. And I noticed the one thing, especially when they're doing some things, it was basically German. You'd hear zwei, eins, zwei, drei, and all that sort of stuff in there. So they're using German as a language for something called Zemnian in the deal. So I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that particular deal there for it?
Hell, I mean, there were times where, like, when you were doing, like, you know, speaking in a different language sort of thing, you just kind of, like, did gibberish. Like, no one's gonna sit there and be like, you sound inaccurate, you suck at this, you don't deserve to. Nah, man, like, screw it. Like, who's gonna literally sit there and tell you, like, oh, well, you don't sound like elf and all this other crap. Like,
Hey.
if you want to, like, just go with it, go with it. But,
Yeah.
like, I agree. Like, oh, I'm just gonna say in Dwarvish, hey, how's it going, or something.
Like that's the thing.
That's
Yeah, I think there's really like a time and a place for it. Because if you have to go do like a whole speech, don't say it in gibberish.
Yeah.
If it's like a whole dialogue,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
mean
like
at
you
least.
could just say, "Oh, I'm saying this in Elvish," and then go on with your monologue.
Yeah, exactly. The monologues require you to, because people are gonna need to know what you're saying, especially your GM. And if you're a GM doing this, your players are gonna need to know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck did he just say?
Excuse me.
You
What
just
you
say a
about
slur?
my mother?
Goddamn.
Oh, but and like
We're
that.
both equally offended.
But that's the other thing too, is like the
Out here about to throw hands over some gibberish.
and
We
the,
about to throw.
and there doesn't have to necessarily be like trying to find a specific one that's like, oh, this is the official one, because like there's different ways to do different like deals. Like for example, when I try to do Draconic, I go with the whole Dravazul thing from the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. So yeah, I just find like a translator or something like that goes with it, and I just try to see what I sometimes I can pronounce it correctly, sometimes I don't. But hey, whatever you want to do with it.
If you want to go that extra mile to learn a new language that is not spoken in the nowadays, reality, go for it. But if you just want to speak Spanish at a table and say it's some other language, do it.
I mean, that's what
no one's going to stop you.
We literally found that at one point when trying to figure out what is the language of the Strix, and we tried to figure out, find a Pathfinder wiki on it. It said it is a Creole language, and I'm like, that's it. It's gotta have a mix of some Cajun Creole. That's what they sound like. They sound like Louisiana Cajuns. So that's what the
Dun, 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 dun.
that's how they sound. The stuff. But yeah, like whatever you feel would be fitting for what you're going for. Yeah, go for it with that. And and if you're going to try it again, like for example, if you find like a translator for certain these words, like for example, one phrase that I usually use for the dragons, if I speak of them, this phrase of Pathfinder. So like, it means high is the word for you, fen is the word for will, and dia is the word for die, though there's fa'al for the article as opposed to the weak verb. See, there's even a whole language on this whole thing. There's like a whole lesson they could go on to, but this isn't a place about lessons in this kind of thing. But that being said, I think those are some decent tips overall. What do y'all say?
I mean, yeah. And there's always like looking up how everyone else does it too. Like, it doesn't hurt to like see forums and stuff about how other people have roleplayed, and even getting like there's also like a generator thing that gives you like prompts on how like a character it's basically like it gives you a character and it tells you like, oh, they're like this or they're like that, they dislike that, blah 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 blah, all those sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so you can just use some of that too to help with like acting out a character.
And one more thing before we start to close this particular episode of the podcast, and I would point out that we won't be here for next week because most people are going to be celebrating the Christmas, and so we're going to have that bit of a break there, but we will come back afterwards to have some nice, absolute fun. The last tip I would just point out is more of a reference for a video, because one of the things is people are going to be asking how to do voices. There's a good channel I recommend that has a video. The channel is called Improve Your Voice, and there's a video called How to Create 100 Distinctly Different Voices. It has helped me to try to focus on creating some voices for characters, and I realize I've been using these without being fully comprehensive of it, because there's usually a certain voice that I can use with the techniques, and I create. I think it was Bono was the name of the guy. He was the pastry chef. Or because hello there, my name's Bono. Welcome to the shop. Hope you like the cakes and the cupcakes and the macaroons and everything. It's a good tasty treat. So there's like that kind of voice. You could then make a Squidward sounding voice if you go for a nasally approach. But there's all kinds of ways that can go into making these voices. So that's one thing I'd recommend. But other than that, so far that's the time we got for our.
I got one thing.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to do the shit in public. Just randomly out in the mall somewhere where you know nobody, and just start speaking a different language that you came up with.
Exactly.
What are they going to do? Look at you like crazy? I mean, kind of all, but that's beside the point.
Oh, already.
For example, I literally delivered my Secret Santa gift in a reindeer onesie, so literally not like an hour ago. So
yeah, I mean, not like you're gonna get arrested for it, so fucking do it.
I mean, whatever happens, I mean, just go for what you gotta do. Get yourself feeling in there. Like
do it with confidence. And no one can tell you nothing.
I talk around the house like a crazy person, talking to myself with the voices, and I talk even in the car where some person's like, what the heck is going on in there?
But if you do it with like confidence, like you know what you're talking about, they cannot say you don't, because they don't understand what you're talking about. They just have to go with it.
Exactly. All right. So that'll be all we have for this particular episode. I would like to get some final thoughts here or final goodbyes for everybody. So Corva, what you got to say for the lovely audience?
Goodbye. Merry Chrysler and Happy Hanukkah.
That's the first one I've heard that. What about you, Star?
Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Crisis, and
Mixing it up,
until
I see.
until the next podcast.
What about you, Tankalicious?
Don't disrespect the rats. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, etc.
You heard it here first, guys. Y'all take care, and thank y'all for tuning in. Merry Christmas and Merry Chrysler.